everybody knows me by Hi.
By Hi. How'd you get that nickname?
My middle name's Hiram.
Oh, okay. I figured it was Hiram.
H-I.
Yeah, I figured it was Hiram. I figured your name was Hiram.
Yeah.
But, well, Hi, why don't you tell us, where were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in Skiatook, Oklahoma.
Uh-huh. What year?
1926.
Okay. So you are now 95 years old.
I'll be 96 in September.
Okay. September 10th, I think you said last week was your birthday. Okay.
Yeah, September 10th.
Okay. And so you must have been about 3 or 4 when the Great Depression settled in.
No, I was older than that. Oh, I was 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, when, 1929 stock market crash and all that. Probably you weren't aware of it at being 3 years old. But your family moved around quite a bit during the first 15 years or so of your life.
Yeah, you want me to tell you where?
Yeah.
Where I lived?
Yeah.
We moved when I was a baby. We moved to Bradleyville, Missouri.
Right. And what brought the family here from Oklahoma?
Huh?
Why did the family come to Bradleyville?
I have no idea.
But anyway, there weren't relatives in the area?
Anyway, my dad was just that way. And we lived at Bradleyville not very long, maybe a year, and bought a place in Garrison.
Uh-huh.
If you'll look, there's a bunch of Easter lilies. The house and everything's all gone.
Oh.
But anyway, I was 5 years old when we left Garrison.
Okay.
And moved to Jericho Springs.
Now, where's Jericho Springs?
I don't really know.
Okay.
But anyway.
Still in Missouri?
I've been there since.
Uh-huh.
But
is it in Missouri or is it a different state?
No, it's just up there in North Missouri.
Oh, okay. Jericho Springs.
It's up in North Missouri.
Okay.
And then we stayed there. That was during the Depression.
Uh-huh.
And we stayed there just one summer. We grew a big old corn crop. Well, my dad he went on to Loma, Colorado, and he traded that place at Jericho Springs for 40 acres in Loma, Colorado.
Hmm.
And when he traded everything, when we left, we took our clothes and bedclothes, that was it, and moved to Loma, Colorado.
Huh.
And there, we stayed there in that one place about a year.
Uh-huh.
And we moved to an 80-acre farm. He bought an 80-acre farm, and we farmed there. And that was when the Dust Bowl was in Oklahoma, and the government was buying land. Land was irrigated in Colorado, and the government was buying people's land. And my dad sold out, and we moved to Rifle.
Colorado?
And,
Rifle, Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a cabin camp.
Oh.
We had a house and cabins.
Yeah?
There's a circle of cabins.
Uh-huh. Up in the mountains or?
Yeah, it's higher up there. But anyway, it was a pretty good place. But my dad, he thought it was too high for him, and you know, for his heart. He was older, and he sold out, and we come back here in 1937, and when he bought the place from my grandma, he deeded it to me and my sister because we were younger. We were the youngest ones.
How many brothers and sisters did you have total?
I just had one.
Just your sister?
One sister.
Okay.
But my dad was married 3 times, and my mother twice, and there was 15 of us all together.
Oh my gosh! And you and your sister were the 2 youngest. So 37 is when you came back here on Taney Creek Road.
Yeah. And here I've been ever since.
So you were about 11.
I was 11.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been here since you were 11. So you've been here, give or take, 84 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really something.
So tell us about life here. So this wasn't the house that you moved into in 37.
No.
Was it up the hill?
It's up on the hill.
Uh-huh.
It was like a barn. See, my grandpa built it, and he died in his 40s. They found him just up there on the hill. They looked for him and finally found him.
Heart attack? Was it a heart attack?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, then that was it. And I want you to know, me and my wife were married right there in that corner.
Right in this corner here? When did you get married? How old were you?
I was 24.
24?
We got married 1950. The 10th of December.
10th of December.
Yeah.
How did you meet your wife?
Really, you know, I'd go with different girls one time, but I always wanted to go with Doris. And
you wanted to date her.
Oh yeah, that I look forward to that. And anyway, finally I got the courage to go ask her for a date. Me and another guy, and got her and her sister.
Oh, double date.
Yeah, we went. But anyway, without her, I'd be nothing. She was a person that never, the way it was that way. I don't think she ever told a lie in her life. But anyway, I was kind of bad to drink. And that's the reason why I'm saying if it hadn't been for her, I think the second date we went out on, she knew that I drank. And she said, now if you're going to drink, don't come back anymore. And you know, I thought enough of her that I didn't drink anymore.
You stopped.
I stopped. I thought enough of her. And if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to give a lot of thanks to her.
Mm-hmm. How long were you married?
I have to think.
When did she pass away?
67 years, I believe.
Okay.
And she died
2017.
Christmas Day in 17.
2017. Not quite
so
far.
Just after our anniversary.
67 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Living here the whole time?
You know, when my dad died, why, he didn't have any money at all. I was in Washington working, and I came home before he died, and I was just 22 years old. Anyway, we my sister and me owned the place, you know, and it was 65 acres then.
Mm-hmm.
I bought some more land over there. But anyway, I just told her, let's make a price, give or take. And $1,500. And I said, if you want it, you can have it, or I'll buy it. So I had to borrow the money to buy it. And we went to Washington, and I worked 2 years in a bakery.
Mm-hmm.
Washington
State.
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked at Yakima.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But that and I was away in the Army. But I've called it home.
Yeah.
For 80 some years.
Yeah. So back when you first were living here, you were telling me last week that McClurg was your store where you went to, if you needed anything, to buy anything, you'd go to McClurg?
Not really.
Oh.
That was really odd back then. We went to Brown Branch.
Oh, okay.
Some. But but that was really odd. The people around Brown Branch and McClurg were not connected at all.
Yeah.
But later in years after we got married, that was our store then.
McClurg was?
Oh yeah, for years. All the time Lester was there. It was our store.
Was your wife from around here?
Yeah, she lived just over there.
Oh, just down the road?
No.
Up there?
It's on W.
Uh-huh. Up on W?
It's about halfway between Brown Branch and McClurg.
Uh-huh.
That's where she lived.
What was her maiden name?
Her Cornet.
Cornet?
T.
Yeah.
Double T.
2 T's. Cornet?
Yeah.
Okay. Doris Cornet?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then you got married right in the corner here of your home. How big of a wedding did you have?
We didn't expect. She had a big family.
Uh-huh.
And well, that's all we expected. And some of her nieces, her aunt come and the family, and we really didn't invite anybody, but we had a house full. All our neighbors come in.
Just between the two families and all the neighbors, huh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people.
My uncle married us. It was his first wedding.
Really?
But
How'd
anyway.
he do?
Huh?
How did he do at officiating the wedding? Did he do all right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of Doris's aunts, she come over something and he called her down.
Now, you were telling me last week when you were in high school, you would walk to McClurg, and then somebody would pick you up in a car.
Yeah. Olin Deckard.
Olin, okay.
Deckard is just a no Chevrolet car.
Right. And then he would take you to the place where you'd catch the bus.
Yeah.
To go into...
I'd go on into Thornfield.
Thornfield High School?
Yeah. There is not a high school there now.
Okay.
But there was then.
Okay. So that's where you started going to high school.
Yes.
And you
1940.
At the end of the day, would you just repeat that? Take the bus and...
Just come back the same way.
It must have been for a long day.
I went for a year, or for a half a year over there.
Uh-huh.
And I was going almost before daylight and getting home after dark.
Hmm.
And I was the only one in my whole family that graduated from high school.
Really?
Yeah. And
you were the first?
Huh?
You were the first and only, huh?
Yeah, the only money.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, my dad bought a secondhand store at Lebanon. And he took me and we went to Lebanon, and I started the high school there. And I finished up the year up there.
So this would be like, you started like in January going to the Lebanon school?
Yeah. Started in half.
Yeah.
At the half. Anyway, I done real good up there, but we lived with some of my dad's relation.
Uh-huh.
She had a big house, and we lived there. But anyway, the big deal was my dad come back home and left me up there to finish school.
He didn't want to run the business, huh?
I got back home then and finished school at Bradleyville.
Okay. So your high school diploma is really from Bradleyville.
Yes.
And they just started that high school, right?
1940.
1940. Okay.
And see, I could have went to Bradleyville when I started the high school, but I had no way to get there.
Yeah. We
had no car.
Yeah.
Had no way to get there, so I just had to go the other way.
Yeah.
And
why did you want to go to high school?
I don't know. I really don't know. I just wanted to go.
Yeah. And so what year did you graduate?
44.
Okay. So you were in high school pretty much during the war years.
Yes.
What was that like, being in high school with the nation at war?
See, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did you collect, they'd have like, metal drives and, to get material for the war effort?
Yes.
Would you do that in Bradleyville?
Yeah.
Collect things? Yeah.
Anyway, when I got out of high school, I think I went to Washington to work. There's no jobs here.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there in the summer and in the fall and work some and then come back.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, they called me to the Army then. And
This was after the war.
No,
Oh.
that was during the war.
Oh.
And I went to St. Louis, and they rejected me. They didn't take me. So they called me again, and then later, and I went to Kansas City. Didn't make it again. But I was in Washington, and it was really odd. My good friend, he went to the draft board to see. He was going to buy him some new boots. He wanted to see when he was going to the Army. He knew he was going to go. He was drafted. Anyway, I had this odd classification, and I went with him, and I said, "What does this classification mean?" And she said, "Well, you're going to the Army right now." So that was it.
They took you in right away, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't probably a month. I was in the Army.
So was that like in 1945?
Yes.
The last year?
46.
Okay.
See, the war ended in 45.
45. So you when you actually entered the service, it was after the war.
Yeah. And I done my training. They just done 8 weeks then. Done my training in Fort Lewis, and then they shipped me to Tokyo, Japan.
So you took a ship?
Yeah.
Over? Yeah. What was that like?
It was quite a deal.
Did you stop in Hawaii?
Yeah, we stopped in Hawaii to get the ship repaired. 28 days.
Really?
on the water.
Wow.
And then we docked at Yokohama, and they took us on to Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I was a guard.
Okay.
There.
What they call the Army of Occupation?
Yeah. That was the occupation troops.
Yeah.
I was in.
Yeah. So what did you have to guard?
I had to search people. The Japanese worked, and yeah, for a while I stood at a door, and when they come out, you had to search them to see they wasn't carrying anything out,
Yeah.
And then later, they moved me to a different place, and they had outposts that you had to watch people, and then at different places there, they had where they had their messages.
Yeah.
I was there then.
Uh-huh.
Just here and there.
How long did you stay in Japan?
I come out in May, I think. Come out in May of 47.
So, about a year?
Yeah, the year.
Yeah. Did the Japanese, what was the general mood of the Japanese? Were they angry, sullen?
No.
Just normal?
They wasn't angry people at all, no.
Yeah.
No.
Glad the war was over?
But you never see one that would say they was in the Army. They was in the Air Force. That was their big deal.
Oh.
But really, no problem with them that I could see.
Yeah. Okay. So that was mid 47. You got married in 50. So what happened between 47 and 50? You're just working?
I just working, yeah.
You came back here?
Yeah, I come back. Yeah.
What kind of work were you doing?
I don't know, just whatever I could find.
Yeah.
We didn't have any jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you farm? Did you farm?
I did for a while. I did, yeah.
Yeah.
After we were married.
Yeah. Did you like farming or not so much? Or?
I like to raise stuff.
Uh-huh.
But really, you couldn't. But I had that milk truck. I went to, and my brother got me to go to GI school and farm school.
Uh-huh.
And that was neat to go to that.
Where'd you go to school?
At the farm, I went to Forsyth a while and then finished up at Ava.
Okay. But it was like agriculture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Under the GI Bill or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
Was it like the University of Missouri Extension Service or?
Yeah, they just had teachers that.
Yeah.
We just go up there once a week and then just do thing, and they'd come out and we'd do things together.
Uh-huh. When did you get your first car?
I come back from Washington. I don't know. It's probably.
Did you have your own car when you went to Washington? How'd you get out there? Did you hitchhike or?
No. I rode. People would take trucks.
Uh-huh.
And ride in the back of a truck
out
there. And one time a guy come back here and got his school bus, and I went in a school bus. Sometime in later years I drove.
Yeah. That was good work out in Washington State?
Yeah, just orchard work.
Yeah. Always around Yakima?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lived at Stila.
Uh-huh. But this was always home.
Yeah, just.
Yeah. So at some point you started working in the lumber business.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
After I'll tell you this. Vester Keeter built charcoal kilns at Bradleyville, and we started cutting cordwood then.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that was the hardest job I done. We cut cordwood, and $7 a cord, and you'd cut 3 cord a day.
Uh-huh.
And take it, and you had to unload it in the kilns.
So this was by hand you were cutting?
Oh, yeah.
Cordwood?
Yeah, exactly.
Out and you'd look for down trees, or?
No, people didn't care. They just let you cut what you wanted.
Really?
Cut all you wanted.
Really?
So that's the way it was. But anyway, after that, why, my brother-in-law had a oat mill at Bradley, out 125.
Uh-huh.
And I started working for him, and I'd cut logs. Later, I'd get places and cut logs on the weekends or whatever, when I wasn't working down there.
Uh-huh.
And then the lumber business went bad, and I went to Ava and worked in a supermarket. up there.
What were you doing in the supermarket?
I was stocking shelves,
Uh-huh.
and then they moved me up to assistant manager.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, it was a low pay thing. I never did have a good job.
Yeah.
Anyway, I worked up there for 4.5 years, and I got tired of it. and I went, and Bert Horner come, and he had the charcoal kilns down at Bradleyville, and I went to work for him in the dust. But it really helped me because I could work 12 and 13 hours down there. And but anyway, I worked there 6.5 years, and it went bad.
But you were, by that point, you were using electrical saws, or you weren't sawing by hand anymore?
No. But anyway, they shut it down, and I went to Whitaker Sawmill, and I worked there for 14 years. And that's where I started drawing my Social Security, and I could cut cedar on my own then, and that's when I kindly saved up some money.
Yeah.
That was, and I worked for $7.50 an hour, and that's the highest I ever got paid.
$7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you'd also work on your own cutting cedar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had cattle.
Yeah.
We milked.
Okay, milk
we
cows.
milked some, yeah.
Yeah. That's hard work too.
Yeah.
How many did you have?
I don't remember, but I guess a lot of the older people here just keep it going on. But in my 60s, I saw that I have 2 daughters who don't have any sons, and my son-in-laws, they sure couldn't help me, and I just sold out and rented my place, and that was it. That was the way. You know, I want to tell you that I'm satisfied. We had some money when my wife died. Just 15 minutes. She really in bad shape and just came home from the hospital, and I took her to the bathroom and was trying to get her back, and my daughter come. She just lives a little ways up there, and we got her in the chair. 15 minutes, she's dead. But you know,
and that was Christmas Day of 2017.
But you know, the shape she was in, I couldn't grieve. And today, I'm satisfied with what I've got. I want to tell you that. I'm satisfied with what I've got. There's so many that's striving to get more and more. But at my age, what's the use? Randy, he's my cousin, but he rented my place for several years. But anyway, he'll do anything in the world for me. But anyway, you know, what's the use to strive if you can just be satisfied with what you got. I give my daughters when the CDs had come out, I just divided between them. I've got some left, but but you know, I'm satisfied. Tom.
Yeah. You've had a good life.
Yeah, I've worked hard.
Yeah.
I got tickled one time that the IRS, they came and down to the charcoal kilns. Smith and Small owned it then, and they wanted to look at to see how I'd done, you know, if I'd turned it in, I guess. But anyway, my brother-in-law, he said, they sure picked the right person. Because he knew that I'd turned in.
Yeah. You were honest.
So I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
To feel guilty for.
Yeah. Your conscience is clear.
And that's something to be grateful for. That's really something to be grateful for.
So how do you spend your days now? Did you go out for breakfast this morning?
Oh, no. I never go out, hardly. I just...
You still drive, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I drive. But anyway, my daughters, they don't want me out on the road much. But anyway, I just spend my days around here, and I help. My daughter does the cemetery and the churchyard, and I've got quite a bit to mow here. And
you've got a garden, a big garden.
No, it's not very big, but anyway, it's plenty. But I do a garden, and I've cut Sandy's wood for several years, and cut my own wood. Just and ain't not too long. I guess probably 5 or 6 years. I cut cedar all the time.
Yeah.
I got to work till I was 76 years old.
Okay.
And
so
I could have worked on, but
yeah.
I saw that their boy, their grandson had got out of school, and I saw they didn't need me anymore. So
yeah. You retired when you were 76. Okay. So you've lived a long life. You mentioned you gave up alcohol when Doris told you that you needed to.
Yeah. Well, I had to.
Yeah.
It was that way. If I'd went over there with a bad breath, well, that would have been it. She wouldn't have went with me.
Yeah.
But that's really odd. I know you're divorced, but I don't, you know, that's you. But anyway, you know, I think there's a person for everybody, and she was for me. Just like I said, I went with girls, but usually just one time.
Yeah. You kind of knew she was the one.
I just always wanted to go with her.
Yeah.
She was the one. And we had a good life together, I'll tell you that.
So you had 2 daughters?
2 daughters, yeah. 8 years apart.
Uh-huh.
But, well, I tell you, they're really good to me.
Good.
Boy, you know, Tom, I have no complaints.
That's good.
I'm a living a life that, you know, it gets lonesome. But I went with Leon.
Yeah.
Leon Combs. So he came up, come in, and he just wanted to see the place, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it's really odd. He just talked. He wanted to know just how I lived, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just live a simple life.
Mm-hmm.
But Leon, he's a really good person.
Yes.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, better not listen. Better not talk on that.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned last week that one of the reasons the house is right here is there's a spring up the hill there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's piped in the basement.
Uh-huh. Is that your water source?
No.
Oh.
I got a well.
You got a well now?
Yeah. You know, you couldn't depend on the spring in dry weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
And besides that, you got a pump in the well. You can run it in the house.
Right.
This was just, you know, no electricity, and it was just running in the house.
Yeah. And we were talking about spring houses earlier. So you'd milk the cows, you'd pour it into the milk cans, and then set the cans in the water bath.
Set it in the water.
Yeah. And the water's about what, 50 degrees?
I don't know. I know my mother could set Jello in the spring. I guess I imagine there's different degrees. Where
Would that cool it down till the milk collector came to gather it up?
But you know, back years ago, springs were there. Most of the water was got from springs.
Yeah. And you drink the milk.
Wasn't many wells.
Yeah. Would you drink? You drink the milk raw.
The what?
Milk.
Oh yeah.
Drink your own milk. The milk that the cows gave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Raw milk.
Yeah.
Make butter.
Yeah. You just. There wasn't. You couldn't buy them. You know. Nobody had cars much.
Yeah.
And you depended on your grocery store. Yeah. And as you know, later years, we bought after we quit milking, we bought milk. Lester had milk out there.
Yeah.
But
okay.
For years, you just had to depend on your local merchant.
Yeah. Did you raise any hogs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the way we lived. We sold milk and pig bars would come by.
Uh-huh.
You'd sell your hogs. You'd raise a litter of pigs and you sell them then and have some money.
Yeah. So you were telling me last week that your dad built this house?
Yeah, he had it built.
Had it built, yeah.
Yes.
And we were talking about the giraffe-style stone on the outside. And you got it over at south of Bradleyville there?
Yeah.
You headed towards
Uh,
Taneyville.
yeah, it's just you go around the curve and up the hill there, and
Yeah.
that's
That's
where
where they got the stone. Huh?
yeah, my brother got the stone there.
Yeah. Was it just from a cut from where the stone was exposed, or?
I don't know. I know he just had an old Ford truck and he hauled them here for $5 a load.
Really?
And how he split them, I just took an old chopping axe, I think.
Yeah.
And mark them, and they just split.
Yeah. How? Who actually did the work on the stone? Was it your brother?
It was my niece's husband,
Okay.
Whitehead.
Okay. Whitehead was the last name.
Whitehead.
Yeah. Okay. And whose husband was that?
Huh?
Whose husband was that? You said it was your sister Naisha's?
No, it is my niece's husband.
Oh, your niece's husband. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He did the work, huh?
Yeah, he laid the rock.
Okay.
And then we had another guy that finished it.
Uh-huh. And then you added on to the house?
Yeah. Yeah, I added on. My mother didn't have any place to live, and she lived in the basement.
Uh-huh.
And I added on a kitchen, and then later I added on a bathroom
Oh, so it has
and a bedroom back there.
2 additions, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you do those? Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know that back part, the bathroom and the bedroom. It was the latest.
Yeah.
And
Did you have an outhouse before then? Yeah.
see, we didn't get electricity till 51.
51. That's when the McClurg store was built too.
Yeah.
1951. Was that a big improvement?
When the store was built?
Well, when the electricity came in?
Oh, yeah.
Make
We
life
had
easy.
we went. The guy at Ava, they come down with a refrigerator in the back of the pickup. And I was working down in the field,
Uh-huh.
and they come down there, and we bought it on payments.
Yeah. I mean, they were just, it wasn't for you. You just said, hey, I'll take that refrigerator.
But anyway, we bought it. That was something.
Yeah.
Ice cubes.
Yeah. Especially in the summertime.
No kidding.
Yeah. What did you use for? Did you get electric lights then? Did you get the?
Yeah, we got electric lights and a few plug-ins.
Yeah. What did you use to light the house before then? Kerosene?
Yeah, then that kerosene. You see that lamp it's sitting in there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually from the time when you were lighting with kerosene, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bought kerosene. Had kerosene lights. They had a lamp. We had some of them back when my dad was alive. Aladdin lamps. Boy, they had a kind of a thing on them, a wick on them that they made a really good light.
Really? Huh?
Aladdin lamp.
Uh-huh. Well, thanks for sharing some of your memories about your life.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it'd be very interesting, but maybe it is.
It'll be interesting.
Anyway, you know, I'm really glad to talk to you and share with you what I've got.
Yeah.
I don't have much, I know.
You've had quite a life.
Just a life.
Yeah. And we're neighbors now, so.
Oh, yeah.
Can I stop by sometime? Just say hi?
Why, sure.
Especially when I see you out working in your garden or something.
Why? I'll be happy. I count you as my friend, Tom.
I do too.
I want you to know that. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you. Glad to have met you.
Huh?
I'm glad to have met you.
Oh.
I spotted your house first thing every time I drove down here.
Anyway, you know, you don't, Jack Pettyjohn, he's a good neighbor of mine, and he lives in Springfield. You know, and Randy.
Yeah.
Man, we've had a lot of good times together.
Yeah.
He rented my place, and I couldn't ask for a better person than him.
Well, thanks very much for speaking with us.